little bit of my background. I'm a photojournalist and author, and I do costume design for film. My biggest claim to fame is probably my son-in-law, who is the writer and showrunner for the next Lord of the Rings series coming up on Amazon. So I don't get to claim anything myself. And I don't know anything about it. I'm out of the loop because I have too big of a mouth, so he won't tell me anything. Plus, they won't tell anybody anything. Props are something that I used to be really, really good at, because no matter what production I was working on, whether they had a big budget or a little budget, we would just do the best we had with what we could throw together. And that involved everything from, buying trash cans and turning them into robots, and just paper mache, which was the go-to for everyone who did anything with set decoration. Nowadays you have HD, and you have cameras with such great focus ability. You could see a zit on top of a mole on anybody, and you have to get it right, and it has to look good, because the quickest thing to take a person out of a film is noticing what the object really is instead of what you would like it to be. I brought this kind of thing I just grabbed out of the closet to show, though, that if you have something that looks like it is something, I have no idea what this goes to. It's probably some exercise equipment that my son used. But if you've got a good enough actor, a good enough screenplay, you can use it to become anything. This could be the weapon that destroys the world. It could be the, what do you call this? Microphone that the singer uses. So that's a lot of it, but it has to look good. So Robert is going to be the official to teach us how to do that, because I'm mainly a costume designer.
I'm mainly a writer and producer, so I don't know why they chose us for this thing. You guys probably have more knowledge of some things, and so this could be a nice kind of a round table thing, okay?
Yeah,
so
we would love participation in anything you've learned to help pass on. My only real thing that I've been able to do is just find what I need a DI, and that I was just going to show you. This is a purse, or it was. It's going to be taken apart at some point, and it'll become a costume for, some thin young lady. Not me. Old slippers that you would throw away are great because it's real leather, real sheepskin, and you can do a lot with costumes for orcs and creatures. You just put it all together and create something. This is a sword I bought from Outpost. Who knows Outpost? Yeah, all right. that was one of them.
Awesome.
It's just, made out of rubber, and it's a little bit worn now, and the tip is bad, which is why I got it for only $5. But you can do a lot with spray paint and make anything look just about any way you want it if you know how to do it. And Robert has done a lot of research here, and will help us with some of the tools we may need. Also, I was going to say too, though, when you guys are shopping, garage sales, thrift shops, your mother's closet when she's not looking, you can keep your eyes open for something unusual that you think you may be able to use. This is a handle off of a purse. But I think, I see snake there, I see belt. It could be a whip, and you put another end on it, and, that'd be pretty cool. So just keep your eyes peeled and hopefully have room for things that you can build on later. It also helps if you know what productions are coming up, and most of us in the industry do not. You will get a call at 11:30 at night saying, can you be on set, 150 miles away at 6? And you have to say, sure.
if you want another job.
Yeah. So you just learn to roll with what happens in the industry. Are you ready?
Yeah, for this, yeah.
Okay.
First of all, I'm Robert Starling. I've worked, as I said, as a writer, producer, director for about 40 years. And she said we've got about 100 years between us. I don't know what she's got, but I started in 1971. In fact, I produced the first student film done at BYU in 1971. If you want to go see it, it's a little campus romance. It's kind of fun, slice of life of what it was like back then at BYU. It's called Ice Cream and Elevators, and it's on YouTube if you want to see it. It's kind of fun. So, at that time, they had no film school at BYU. My friends and I were broadcasting majors. We were in communications. That was the closest thing we could get. And so, we like to think that maybe what we did sort of lit a spark that, because BYU's got a fabulous film school now, so it's great. So, first of all, what is a prop?
Anything the actor touches.
I'm sorry, what?
Anything the actor picks up and touches.
Exactly. It's not a costume, even though some things may be in pockets or whatever, but if an actor picks it up, uses it with their hands, then it's a prop. If not, it could be part of the scenery, set decorations, things like that. But it's not a prop unless even though it could be lying around or whatever, it's a prop if the actor touches it and uses it. Okay? The one thing that really jumped out at me in the narration, it says that the greatest special effect in any film is the viewer's imagination. I never really thought about that much. I know, for example, I've always thought, talked about in Psycho, there is implied nudity there, but there is none. And it's in your imagination and the reason Hitchcock was such a master, and I was the co-producer of a film called The Mine, which on Netflix they changed to Abandoned Mine. But the idea that we tried to do as LDS filmmakers was to make a horror film that did not have nudity, did not have gore, did not have bad language, the things that you often see in horror films. And we took Alfred Hitchcock as our model because he was able to do so much with what was in the imagination, with what's implied. And that restraint is something I think that's missing in a lot of films today, and we're the worse off for it.
I was just going to say Psycho, another example of Psycho is there is actually no physical scenes of violence. You don't actually ever see the act of violence, just the aftermath of it. And he left that to his imagination. He left that to her imagination. One of the things that I thought was so good about Hitchcock is that he built his audience up. Like, for instance, when Psycho was released, he put out signs and had audio. If you're pregnant, if you're a certain age, you are not allowed to go into this film. So he built up everybody's imagination.
Before the film even started.
Before the film even started.
Waiting outside.
Yeah, waiting outside.
They needed that for Portugal.
And that itself is a prop in itself.
I thought it was interesting that the quote you liked also was a scene from Jaws, which, they built that fancy shark, and the first cut of the movie was pretty bad. And then they went back and they reduced the shark and left more to the imagination, and it became a really terrifying movie.
All you needed was the soundtrack, right? Boom, boom.
Right.
Boom, boom.
And then, so that was interesting because it's actually the shark was a prop, but by letting us fill in the details in our heads, it became a much better movie.
There's an interesting question. Was the shark really a prop since no character ever touched it?
Oh, they touched it.
It touched us.
Yeah.
Going back to Hitchcock, I think it's funny that the things that I remember that are the most frightening are actually the props. I think of birds, I think of the knife with the shower curtain and that kind of thing, and that they carry more weight in the movie than I ever realized until I watched that.
And the Hershey.
This is great. I found this on the web and I thought, this is perfect. This is great. Somebody, yeah.
I thought it was interesting that a prop could carry emotion along with it through the film screen to you. Like, when he was talking about how props convey feelings, I didn't recognize the scene, so I maybe I would touch a pop culture or something. But there was this cup with completely still water and then a ripple, as we heard a thud, which,
You know what that was from?
as Jurassic
Jurassic Park.
I am completely out of touch.
She's 15.
Yeah.
We can excuse that.
Yeah.
She wasn't even alive when
And the ripple was caused by the T-Rex ground, feet hitting the ground, close by.
Well, anyway, I thought that was interesting that props could convey emotion and even tell a story also when they saw them without any help from humans.
You're a very prescient 15-year-old.
Purple shirt and then black.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I like how they talked about
If you're gonna sit that far away, you gotta speak up.
how the actors also, play a part in helping with the imagination of the prop too. Like how, they show the one scene, something as simple as like opening a box and like having a certain reaction to something that may or may not be there. So I think it's cool how you can use those use props to help instill what the audience should be thinking and imagining. That was interesting too.
Yeah, somebody help me out here. The broken cup that had a Kobayashi on the mark. Was that?
Usual
suspects.
Oh, I didn't say the movie, so I guess. I wonder.
You need to see.
That movie's all about props.
Yes. The last scene just blows your
I was just impressed by how many of the really iconic props, the ones that we remember, are actually pretty simple. I mean, I think about the top from Inception, and I mean, there wasn't anything really special about it. Probably didn't cost a whole lot. I mean, a plastic cup with water in it for Jurassic Park. Even the lightsabers from Star Wars, the first of them were made out of pieces of old junk. And so a lot of the props that we remember weren't these things that cost tons of money to make or anything like that. They're just simple objects, but because of how they were used, they became icons.
And you might say that in selecting or using a prop, again, the most important thing is imagination. How are you gonna use that? What does it mean?
I'm a panelist here, I'm a filmmaker as well. And I don't know how many of you guys are new into filmmaking, but one of the things that I did is I actually made a film that was just about the prop. And learned and focused in on the prop instead of the actors. And it taught me to use props a little better, just a suggestion.
You want to elaborate on that some?
So I used it's a film called Boy in the House, and it's basically about a boy who goes to an all-girls D&D group, and the prop was a frying pan, was a big iron frying pan, and that became the center of what brings them all together. So focusing on that as a writer and as a filmmaker, it made me look at other things that I could do to build the character.
What kind of group was it?
Yeah, Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, okay.
It was a boy in an all-girls D&D group.
Okay. Yeah.
So I write books. I'm an author. I'm not a filmmaker, anything really with film. But watching this helped me think about how can I enhance my writing, even in literary fiction. Because there are always little things you try to do to hone in, sensory details, smells, taste, touch, but also how can I maybe make my props a little better, a little more to add to the story.
The great thing about using props in a book is you don't have to make the props. Or
I can make whatever I want.
Yeah, there you go.
Very specific.
That's great. Well, one of the things when you're in a contemporary story, props are pretty easy. Because like you say, it can be a plastic cup, it can be, whatever you go down to the dollar store and pick up, it's not really hard, It's when you are either doing something historical or fantasy or science fiction that you have to start creating props, that sort of thing. Did you want to?
I was thinking about you were saying about showing everything now. Hitchcock was the master of not showing it, and now it's more and more. In Halloween 64 or whatever we're on now, it's just worse and worse and worse and more of it, and I don't know how it has such a following still. But what I have realized this last award season, for we get the screeners and get to watch in advance. So I've seen a lot of films that I wouldn't normally watch, like Roma. How many of you have seen Roma? Yeah. So simple, so basic. So the story could be told in 5 minutes, but the details, the cinematography, I wouldn't be surprised if it gets not only best foreign film, but best actress. But it's these things that people in foreign countries are still students of Hitchcock, and they're doing that sort of filmmaking, while we have advanced supposedly to the point of showing everything. And I think it's to our
slightly
detriment.
disagree with you on that.
Yeah, you bet.
So I'm doing a panel on Saturday, Quiet
Okay.
Place, and horror.
Mhm.
A Quiet Place is a great example of Hitchcock. You actually never really see the monster.
Right.
I mean, you get glimpses of it until almost the end. What's the other one that I can't remember it? But there are some really good horror films today that still follow that genre.
Mhm.
And you'll find that they have this underground kind of following. Maybe they're not huge blockbusters in the theater,
Mhm.
but they get the second wind, they're put out. And a lot of those have those props. I'll use the Quiet Place again. The sand, putting the sand, that was a prop. It was used to quiet their footsteps,
Mhm.
and it builds the character, and
Right.
they build the story. And the suspense. Can you imagine? And I thought this after about the 5th time watching it, putting all that sand down.
Oh, I know.
So,
And-
but
and
there are
having
some
a baby
good
without
examples,
making
and I
any
think we're
noise.
starting to get back. Maybe I'll say I'll put that on Saturday. Sorry.
Yeah. No, absolutely right. That's a good point.
And that's one of the nice things about having an hour and a half here. We got time to explore things a little bit more. Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the better films too. That
Whereas
was
in the new
my-
Halloween movie, you're kind of like,
Yeah, here it is again.
I was excited to see it because I was a fan of the original film, and I watched it and I went, okay, yeah.
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 This is just a random trivia thing since we mentioned Hitchcock, but as a little kid,
Make sure you speak up so everybody can.
as a little kid, when I learned about Psycho, I thought it was really interesting that the blood in the bathtub was chocolate syrup,
Yeah.
which only worked because it was a black and
Black
white
and white,
movie.
yeah.
But I just that was something that just stuck in my head my entire life.
Right.
Because it was neat.
And my sister was like, oh, and they put it down the drain.
You want to get down there and lick it up,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, another chocoholic there.
Big time.
My daughter Tara, Kjirstin knows Tara because my daughter Tara Starling is a makeup artist, and she's worked on about half the films been shot here in Utah, and she's a chocoholic.
Is she really?
Oh,
I did not know
big
that.
time.
Oh, good.
Matter of fact, one time for her birthday, we bought her this little frame to go around the tag on her car. It says, just hand over the chocolate, nobody will get hurt.
Yeah, Tara's really good. at
And
what
that's
she
a
does.
prop, it's a prop and used in real life. That's what it is. Okay, so we've got time here to explore some different things, but I want to, and I think Kjirstin too, want to know what you want. What did you come here to learn or to get out of this? Yeah.
Like some of the how-tos, and maybe not just the props they touch, but maybe the props that hang on the walls and things. Like how to take cheap stuff and make something that looks nice, even though you're.
Since you brought up what's on the walls, I thought about bringing it, but it was too big. But I worked for 9 years for the church, the LDS church in the media department, and when I first started working in '94, we were doing Book of Mormon films for the seminary and institute students. And there was one of the films that we did that had a supposedly a Nephite marketplace in the city of Zarahemla. We shot it down here in Hobble Creek Canyon, and we built a set. And it was interesting to me. We had these on the walls. What if you were to go down to Central America now, and you would see rock carvings. And it was, but if you were to go when they were first created, 1,000 years ago, those rock carvings would not just be gray stone like they are now. They would actually paint on them. And so when we built this set, we had these panels that were like rock carvings. But they had a kind of an ochre red background, and then they had very bright colors of outlining the things that are on there.
So they look new.
So it was new, And I wish I had brought it, but the panels that I have are like this, and I wouldn't have those except that we shot for a couple of weeks down there, and then. Because you only rent the land for so long where they built the sets, they had to go in and bulldoze the sets and destroy all of that. Well, my family, I snuck down there on a Sunday afternoon with my family before they were going to come in Monday and bulldoze everything. And I took my little hacksaw and stuff, and I cut these panels out to save them, And I've got a picture. I wish I don't know if I've got that picture. I'll see if I've got it on my computer here. But it was really interesting to see. And the thing about it, all those stone things that really looked realistic, they were made of vacuum-formed plastic. And they would make a molds kind of thing, and then they heat up the plastic, and then they put it down and suck the air out, and suck it up against the mold to make it look.
Yeah. And you paint it and it looks like a 2,000-pound rock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can do that in your oven at home, right?
No. And that's the problem when you're talking
I've
about.
heard people talk about making like the Star Wars uniforms in their oven with the sheet plastic on the mold. I guess they don't have the vacuum. Is that what?
Yeah, probably.
Nowadays, of course, you can use 3D printing to do a lot of
Yes,
stuff.
that's what I was going to say.
And go ahead.
I was just going to say 3D printing is what comes across now, but a lot of us don't have budgets even for that. So since the advent of better quality films and HD TV, what I've ended up doing, instead of going to the dollar store and DI, because those things just won't pass muster on film, I'm sorry. But when I am on location at a place, if I need high-end things that we can't possibly afford, what I do is say, who in this town has really nice things? And I could specify what I need. And I'll ask like the city council, and they'll say, oh, Mrs. So-and-so, her husband died and she lives in this mansion and she has this and this, and she loves film. And you go there with the idea of renting it from them, but I have never even had to pay. Every time they turn stuff over, just thousands of dollars worth of stuff, if they can sit on the set and watch it film. And that's a great way. And I highly recommend that because, number one, it builds, a rapport with the people. They always have kids and grandkids and friends who will then be invested in your film and want to come and see it, and we'll talk it up on social media. So there are lots of ways to do what you need to get done without spending a lot of money.
I can go you one better than that.
Oh, go for it.
When they bring it to you at their own expense.
Oh, we had that happen on Wayshower.
Yeah.
I was on a 5-week shoot down in Helper, Utah, and it was a period piece that dealt with different circumstances. 1955, 1964, 1972, I think it was, 80s, and then the present day. And I had to come up with costumes for all of that. And no budget. I had $3,000. And we did the whole DI thing. We were set as far as we could go, but I can't do 50s. There's just no way.
I got a sweater you can use.
Thanks. I'm sitting there thinking, I can cut the arms off this, And this guy shows up and he says, my mother died 20 years ago. And here's the key to her house. I have never been able to go in and clean it up because he was just too heartbroken. And he said, I would really appreciate it if you would take anything you could use. And oh my gosh, I just got goosebumps. I got them again just thinking about this because I was the one who got to go in this place. Mice had attacked a lot of the wool and stuff like that was damaged. But she had things hanging in her closet from 1940s, 50s, 60s, and color coordinated, and they fit our actresses, and it was incredible. And all he wanted was for me to take the things out for him so he didn't have to go through that emotional pain.
How did he find you then?
Oh, we were downtown, we were set up, and
Little town in southern Utah, it's hard not to find you.
And I had a great big wardrobe area with windows that went to the front of the street, and then I had 2 changing rooms in the back, and we had all the wardrobe on, what do you call it, hanging up there.
Racks.
And we had, so Eric Roberts was our actor, and he came in. He's Julia Roberts' brother, but you can't mention that to him because
He was an actor first.
Right, he was the actor first. He started her career, and anyway, there's a lot of hard feelings there. So we never mentioned Julia on set, but anyway, he comes in and he's all suave and debonair, and we're measuring him and getting him costumed, and I told him where the changing rooms were, and he goes, I've dressed in front of wardrobe people all the time, I don't care, and he's getting it all out there. And I said, but, and I'm trying to point to the windows in Main Street. People looking in the windows, and he just was oblivious to it all. And then one of the PAs came in and he said, give me a little privacy here. So all of the wardrobe people were still laughing.
You had a question?
I just like the story about Napoleon, Uncle Rico's van and Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah.
Where they were there and they were getting ready to start filming, and this van drove by and they were like, oh, we gotta borrow that van. So they chased it down and borrowed the van for Uncle Rico to drive around.
Wow. They borrowed it? Seriously?
Yeah, they just chased it down and borrowed it.
How many of you have seen Saints and Soldiers? Okay, again, my daughter Tara did makeup for all of us. She's a key makeup artist. And so on the first one, they were shooting the big massacre scene, it's supposed to be in France, where they shot it down in Alpine. And what do you think the budget was for that film?
200,000? 300,000.
How much did it look like it was?
Oh, a couple million.
Oh, I'd say more like 10, 15. No.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all these World War II soldiers, the German,
The tanks.
the
Oh,
tanks,
the tanks alone, yeah.
They had a flyover at the end of the P-51 Mustang, all this kind of stuff, It looks like at least a $10 million film. It was under $500,000. And one of the things that really helped them keep it down was all those soldiers, except the main actors that were in the background, were reenactors. These are guys who, on their weekends, they dress up in their army suit and have a rifle and whatever, and they go out and do mock battles and stuff. Some are American, some are German, whatever, and that's what they do for fun, okay? And it's their hobby.
They would have paid to be there.
Yeah.
Well, actually, they did. They had about 80 reenactors that came from all over the country at their own expense.
Oh my gosh.
They found people that they could stay in their homes, and but they came from all over. They brought their uniforms, they brought their weapons, and now these guys pride themselves on the authenticity of their regalia, of their gear, okay? And I went to help because they, you know, had so many people there that Tara couldn't, you know, dirty them all up by herself. So my son and I went up there to help her put dirt on their faces and things like that.
Cool.
And so then we were, I think it was a low budget film, we just used dirt.
Did you really? Oh my gosh.
But you could use, cocoa, right?
Couldn't even afford the Hershey's cocoa.
Yeah. Anyway, so we were in the warming tent with the guys, you know, when they were not shooting their scene or whatever, because it was pretty cold out there. So here these guys are portraying German soldiers, you know, and they're talking about their uniforms and their stuff and everything, how proud they are. And it was even down to the details of what they were carrying in their pockets. You'd never see it, you know, but that's their thing. And the one guy pulls out a little tin of chocolate, and it has a swastika stamped on the chocolate.
Wow.
It's authentic chocolate like the German soldiers
60-year-old chocolate.
Well, no, it wasn't. It was a replica.
Oh, okay.
It was big money, but it was authentic in its, you know, in its form and everything. And they went down to that kind of detail. Now, I'm hoping to be able to shoot a film at some point, whenever we get the funding, about the Boer War in South Africa in 1899, 1900. And I called over to talk to some people, and there are actually Boer War enactors.
Oh my goodness.
Who would love to do so. I mean, this is what they do, you know, and to be able to have a movie of them doing their thing, you know, they would do all of this on their own just to be in the movie. All you have to do is give them a copy of the movie, you know. And so it was really great. I guess some of you probably got some other things to go to. But, anyway.
Thanks.
Sure.